Hello everybody and welcome back to the second episode of the mini-series about defending in Football Manager. Today I'm gonna give you 10 tips on how to concede less goals in FM24, so let's go! Okay, without further ado, let's start with tip number 1. It is to use dribble less and take fewer risks as personal instructions for your center halves, your fullbacks / wingbacks, and your defensive midfielders. You have, of course, to keep in mind that if you have great dribblers, if you have good passers, you can skip this, but not every time your fullbacks are going to be great on the ball. Not every time your defenders will be great passing the ball. Not all the time your defensive midfielders are going to be great when they are playing the ball, like in their feet, dribbling, passing, and stuff like this. Top 3 most annoying and most common ways to concede goals in Football Manager is when you do make a mistake when playing out from the back and one of your defenders gives a bad pass to your midfielders, or your midfielders can't really progress the ball and they do a bad pass. You can't play out of the press, you lose the ball, and you're gonna be annoyed. So take fewer risks. This makes your defenders be a little bit less adventurous when playing the ball, and with dribble less you can prevent your more defensive players to actually try and do it on their own. So they're gonna be waiting for other players that may be better on the ball, supporting duties, to come and help. Which brings us to the second tip, and it is to consider using less ball-playing defenders and maybe center defenders as roles for your two center halves. We don't always really need to use the fancy ball-playing defender, and by the way, by default, you cannot really get rid of them taking more risks on the ball. So, yeah, you may download tactics, they may work great, but if you're not a great team, if you're not dominating the division you're playing in or the competition you're playing in, just use center halves that are central defenders on defend. Maybe we take fewer risks. Tip number 3. Consider getting rid of play out of defense if your attacking is using it, or at least be very mindful when you do use it. So play out of defense, what it does, it sets your defenders and your DMs to shorter passing. And now it prevents them kind of from clearing the ball. And if they find themselves in trouble, they're going to try to play out of trouble. And, well, if you play a good team that is pressing you well, they're going to make a mistake and you're going to get annoyed. By the way, another side effect. Do you really want your DMs to have their passing range restricted to short? I'm not really sure. I don't like my DMs to be restricted in the sense, because a lot of the time I have pretty good creative players as well as DMs. For example, I have a holding DM and one playmaker, and I don't want to restrict my playmaker's passing range, because in transition we're going to be more dangerous if we can move the ball forward faster. Shorter passing kinda makes our game slower. So yeah, that's it. Tip number 4 is to not shy away from using more defensive duties. You only need 2 or 3 attacking, 2 or 3 supporting roles and players, and you can have 4, even 5 defensive duties on the pitch, and it won't hurt your tactic that much. Like, the movement in this game is really smart in terms of how this game is going, where there is space that your players can use. For example, I've seen this center half here, central defender or defend, drift so far forward that he actually made a cross from the corner flag at the other end of the pitch, just because we were dominating possession, we were the better team, and eventually, if we're putting so much pressure on them, all my players are actually going to be part of the attacking moves that we're doing. So defensive duties, they're not making your team just sit back and not try to attack at all. If they find the opportunity, they're going to join the attack, they're going to be there, but they will be more mindful towards what's going to happen on transition when you lose the ball and how they're going to be able to prevent you from conceding. Part of this tip is to consider using one defensive fullback or wingback when the other one is on support or attack. You're not going to lose a lot. If they are on defend, they're still going to join the attack. You can check the wingback guide in the channel. You're going to see that the wingback on defend, for example, is also going to put in crosses. Is also going to join the attack. So don't worry. Use one on defend, use the other one on support or attack. You're going to concede less goals like this. Tip number 5. Consider using more DMs and more left and right midfielders instead of CMs and attacking left and right midfielders. A lot of things that your CMs can do, your DMs can also do. And your starting position is deeper, and we're getting attacked, in your resting defense, you're going to be a bit deeper and you're going to be a bit more condensed in the midfield, and it's going to be a bit more difficult for them to break your lines, because otherwise there is going to be a little more space between your midfielders and your defenders. So this is regarding using more DMs and less CMs. Almost everything your CMs can do, your DMs can also do. The other thing, consider using wingers and inverted wingers as ML and MR instead of using attacking midfielders left and attacking midfielders right. They do almost the same thing. So if you're going to be using an inverted winger or a just winger, bring them back a notch. Same thing as DMs and CMs. They're still going to participate in attack, but they're going to start their attacking moves a little bit deeper, and they're also going to be doing their defending a little bit deeper. Tip number 6 is to always have one DM, one more static holding midfielder that is going to be sitting in front of your defense or even dropping between your defenders and be there with them when they try to bring the ball out of defense and start attacks. And he's also going to be there trying to protect them when you lose the ball on transition. So he's very important in a lot of situations for you to not concede on the counter and for you to not make mistakes while building up from the back. Now, I'm really gonna suggest that you give a try to the halfback. I wasn't a huge fan, but halfbacks, they do a lot of dirty work. And if you've seen Man City and Liverpool playing last couple of years, I think that a lot of times, for example, Fabinho was playing this role, or even Rodri was doing this. Now he's venturing a bit more forward, but they are the player that is sitting between the defenders and helping them throughout the whole time. You're not going to lose him in attack. Again, as the defensive duties, if you have a really static holding midfielder, anchor, halfback, DOP on defense, DM on defense sometimes, they will also join the attack when you're dominating or when the opposition team has decided they're going to sit back for this attack and they're just going to wait for you to do your thing. They're going to be there. They're going to be recycling possession. They're going to be laying it off to more creative players. Very, very, very good role to have in your team. Which brings us to the very important tip number 7. Forget about any asymmetric stuff in your defense. And when I say defense, I mean defenders and DMs. Like, even something like this, not cool. Not cool. Your defensive shape is going to be weird. If you have one DM, just put him central. Just put him central. Don't try the other things. This is empirically proven. I've tried it a lot of times. It doesn't work. You may think that, yeah, this guy's going to move here, this guy's going to move there. Maybe if they're both on defensive duty, but why would you have someone on defensive duty here when the other guy is also on defensive duty? Doesn't really make a lot of sense. And yet, there is going to be a way for them to play, for your opponents to play between your lines easier. Just keep this guy central if he's alone, and if it's multiple of them, don't do something like this, offsetting him to the left or the right. It's not giving up great results. And now, the other big no-no is asymmetric defense. I've tried in the FM versus challenge, use something like having a defensive winger on this side and then squeezing in defenders and having a wide center back on this side, thinking that this guy is gonna come back, this guy will get help from the other players. No, it just doesn't work. There is a huge hole in your defense, it gets exploited all the time, it's super annoying, you're gonna concede a lot, so don't even think about it. Don't waste your time. Do not do asymmetric defending. Not the greatest idea. Just drop it. Tip number 8. Mind your opponent and change your mentality accordingly. Listen to what your assistant manager says. If you're gonna be losing the possession battle, as it says here in cautious, just switch it. Start unbalanced, start on cautious. You can later switch. Also, do it in game. If you see it at some point in the game, you're dropping below 45, below 40% of possession, consider switching to balanced if you're on positive, consider switching on cautious. There are periods in the game where the position manager does changes, and they reflect the way things are going on the pitch. They rotate players, they shout stuff at them, and there is momentum. And when the momentum is not on your side, do not insist on playing attacking and positive. Switch to balanced, switch to cautious, then get back to positive once your players or the other players are losing momentum. So be mindful of your opponent and please change mentality. Just do it. Change it every now and then. Tip number 9. Mind your set pieces. Top 3, maybe second or even first, most annoying way to concede goals is via set pieces. And one of the things that you can do is find a great set pieces coach and just let them manage it for you. It's not a bad idea. I've had great results, but I've had better results with them finding ways for us to score, but not good ways for us to defend. And one of the tips that I can give you, I'm not great at set pieces. Don't take everything that I say here as like great idea, but one of the things that I've seen is that a lot of the times I've conceded goals from balls being played to the edge of the area. If you go back to the first FM versus Showdown challenge, I won the game only because for some reason the instructions that Ross gave to his players was that they all were stacked like this, and Marcus Rashford from the other side received 2 great balls and he just scored 2 times from an easy out-of-the-box shot in FM. So the thing that you can do is to have 2 players, not 1, 2 players staying on the edge of area, because I've tried with 1 player and they usually lurk here and they cover someone here, but there is sometimes another player, opposition player, that is lurking a little bit closer, like at the edge of the D. So one thing that I do is I get rid of the 1 either player marking or zonal marking guys. For example, I do remove the center guy because I expect the keeper to be challenging there. And the next thing is to get rid of 1 players going back. So the counter-attacking players, best of them, stays forward, tries to be on the receiving end of the ball. And then I have 2 players staying on the edge of area. And by the way, you're going to see it in, again, the FM versus Showdown. I think it's going to be episode 9, where I absolutely dominated the set pieces, the defensive set pieces versus Ross. My players won a couple of balls like this. It was maybe 3 counterattacks in a single half of football, and we scored 1 of them. So defensive set pieces, super, ultra, very important. Look at the goals that you're conceding. This is the most general thing that I can give you as an advice. Just look at the goals that you're conceding. What are they? Are they set pieces? Are they passes, misplaced passes in the back? Are they crosses, which will bring us somewhere else as well? And just try to counter it. Tip number 10, very important one. Just use specific player marking and be mindful of the existence of tighter marking. Now, first thing, if you have an asymmetric tactic like this, the first thing that you have to keep in mind is that you are vulnerable on your left flank, on their right flank. And one thing that you can expect here is that they're going to be easily moving the ball forward if you press as high as you wish. You can do that. But on the right-hand side of their attack, there's going to be a very easy way for them to play through your press, because their right defender is going to have an easy way to carry it forward, to pass to their CM, to their winger. And it doesn't really matter that you've done all of this here, like halfback and stuff like this. There's going to be a huge hole for them to play through, and they're going to do it, and they're going to exploit it. So one thing that I usually do is that I get the guy that is on the asymmetric side, that is, he should be considering himself an attacking midfielder, right? So attack midfielder, central attacking midfielder. Yeah, offset it to the left, but he's an AMC. He is an AMC. He's not a winger. So why is he supposed to cover the R of the opponent? So what I usually do is I tell him to mark the opponent's DR or wing back right, depending on the game that you're playing. But yeah, you can do this, and they are gonna drift further away from their position, original position. So when defending, they're not gonna be keeping their ground like here in the channel. They're gonna be getting further wide to try and prevent the opponent defender to play the ball. So this is a must. If you're doing asymmetric attack, it's a must to think of the ways that your opponent is going to be playing out from the back and trying to make your players have a defensive shape that makes sense, because this shape makes sense in attack, right? But in defense, does it really make sense? Not really. They're always going to have someone on that side to carry the ball forward, so you're leaving them a free pass to get through your high press, to get through your CMs even, and then, well, welcome. One-on-one versus the wingback on support. Great stuff, right? On the other hand, why did I do AMR? Because I acknowledge the fact that this is gonna make my player try to help my wingback here, because this guy is wingback on support. And for example, with this tactic, I decided, okay, I'm gonna go with 3 players trying to hold the defensive shape. So 3 at the back. I'm gonna have a halfback that can also slot in there. So maybe this center defender is gonna cover. This guy is gonna either drop in between or cover for the wingback that's going forward. Because wingbacks, remember, they're used to playing without a winger in front of them. And then I'm more inclined to think that the danger is not gonna be coming from the DL playing the ball, because I'm not using high press with the tactic. More important to me is that I have the winger covered. And then what I do, I say, okay, the attacking right midfielder, I want him specifically marked by my attacking midfielder, and I want him to be marked tighter. Yeah, my attacking midfielder is probably not going to be great at marking. He's not great at this, but he's going to be a body. And you got to keep in mind that. Like, he's going to be there frustrating him. If you try and make players venture too far forward from their position to do man marking, most of the time, they're not going to do it. Like, they're not going to have the attributes that are going to force them, like the work rate, the teamwork, I don't know how many of the attributes actually participate in this. So they have, even if they have 20 marking, they're still going to be not really obeying this instruction. And if you're not really using be more disciplined and tighter marking, then they'll probably just leave him be. Like, if the guy that you told him to mark is 20 meters, 30 meters away from them, they'll be like, do your thing. Even more so if they're attacking players. So in this situation, I use tighter marking just because I know this guy's not great. This is one of my ways to force him be near the AMR, and he's just gonna frustrate and beam there. And I don't really care if he's losing him every now and then, because he is not supposed to be the main person to prevent the AMR from creating stuff. I still have the halfback, I still have the center half, I still have the wingback. So he's gonna be there to frustrate the position player. And yeah, tighter marking, be mindful with it. Like, if you have a great dribbler versus you and you're too close to him, he's gonna dribble through you. Like, think of Prime Messi. What defender do you think that could have been marking tighter Messi? Not stepping back and giving some grab to do his thing. So if you try and press Messi, what does he do? Like, he nutmegs you. So keep in mind that. But always, in an asymmetric attack, be mindful of how the opposition is actually playing through your lines. Don't only think of your attack, think of your defense as well. This is number 10. And despite the fact that I've prepared a couple of bonus instructions that you can use and bonus tactical tips that you can use, the video is getting too long, so I'm gonna stop here. And if you want to see more of these and more suggestions how you can improve your defense and concede less goals, let me know in the comments down below. And like this video, subscribe to the channel, check the other types of content that I do, and I hope to see you again. Bye bye.